What's up, guys? Welcome to Good Bad Wrestling No Holds Barred. This is the show where we dig up bad wrestling from the past and then bury it again. And we sometimes do interviews, which is what we're doing today. I am your host, John.
I'm Jack Brinks sometimes.
Sometimes Sean has no idea who he is. Like I said, we do interviews. We do them in podcast form and in YouTube form. So if you're listening to us on the podcast, that's awesome. You can subscribe on Apple, Google, Spotify, wherever they got podcasts. If you're looking at our big dumb faces on YouTube, super kick that subscribe button, which should be somewhere in this vicinity.
No, it's this vicinity, idiot.
Leave us a comment. Let us know what you think. Shoot us some suggestions for future interviews for other good, bad topics, which is what we normally do. But today, we're doing an interview. We've got a special guest from NorCal Wrasslin. We've got Dan Martin. What's up, Dan? How are you?
Doing well. How we doing, guys?
Great, man. Good to talk to you. So, Dan runs an Instagram page called NorCal Wrasslin, and it's basically just what would you say, like a highlight, a shout out to Northern California independent wrestling. Is that about right?
Yeah. So the way it started was I'm obviously a big wrestling fan, but only a couple of my friends are like-minded. And my normal Instagram page I keep private. But I wanted a way to share all the pictures and videos I take going to events, because I try to make it out to as many as I can. So I started this page. It's been a few years now. I don't really know how many. I want to say 3 or 4 years ago, and kind of blown up, quote unquote, a little bit since then. But yeah, it's just a way to kind of highlight the local scene here. We've got a really nice group of indies that run pretty regularly in the Bay Area. We're actually pretty lucky with that. So I figured I'd show them some love. The boys work really hard, put on a good show pretty often for us, and that's just kind of a fun way to highlight them and get them some publicity a little bit.
Yeah, man. I mean, I found you because we started doing this show, and I was just sort of following wrestlers. And I forget how, but I came across your page one day, and what I noticed wasn't the number of followers that you had, but who was following you. And it was like Boyce Legrand and Jacob Fatu, and like Shotzi Blackheart, and all of these kind of people who either are from or pass through the Bay Area who are wrestlers, and it kind of piqued my attention. Was that kind of a thrill for you when that kind of started happening?
Yeah. I mean, it's pretty cool. I mean, I'm just a fan, right? I've never worked in the wrestling industry at all. I've been a longtime fan, but it's definitely, there's always that kind of thrill, so to speak, when the local celebrity gives you a follow and shares something. But basically, every local wrestler, everyone that's been in the Bay Area, is following at this point. They follow, share my stuff when I post them. It's cool. Like I said, I never really expected it to get like this. I interact with them way more than I ever did. It's fun. Like I said, I'm here really just to publicize what they're doing. They're the ones out there, working, trying to entertain all of us. And if I can provide some entertainment for the internet community and they seem to appreciate it, all the better.
When did your love for wrestling start? What was your earliest wrestling memory?
So I have a very, very vivid memory. My first wrestling memory was Saturday night's main event, Hogan and Orndorff in the cage.
Yes. Yes. As soon as you said that, I could hear the Saturday night main event music in my head and see the graphics.
Yeah. So I mean, I don't know the year. I mean, I was 4 or 5, right? And my uncle lived in my grandma's basement at the time. And we were over there for something, family dinner or whatever. And I walked downstairs and he's got it on. And so I start to watch, and they're climbing the cage, and they both drop down and their feet hit, at the same time. And 4 or 5-year-old me was just like, oh my God, it's the same. It just blew my mind. And then, you know, I was instantly just enthralled with Hogan, because how couldn't you be at that time? And yeah, I was pretty much hooked from that point on. I mean, I watched every weekend the stuff on USA, the syndicated shows, as much as possible. Definitely more of a WWF fan back then. Although I did definitely do my share of PBS watching, but you know, here on the West Coast, it wasn't 6:05; it was 3:05, which was prime playtime. So I wasn't doing a ton of watching TV at that time of day. I had a little more important stuff to do with whether it was sports or just playing outside, but watched as much as I could. But definitely more of a WWF guy. Definitely much more of a fan of the spectacle of it all.
We've got this like ongoing theme. It appears that most people's first memory of wrestling is Hulk Hogan, and I'm gonna be honest, I really don't know how I feel about that. We spend a lot of time tearing up Hulk Hogan. He's such a big part of wrestling.
Oh, he's the Babe Ruth of wrestling. The only difference is that nobody had a camera for Babe Ruth's sex tape. Like, his contributions can never be diminished. It's just that a lot of his personality is out in the public. Dan, where do you kind of stand on Hogan here and now?
You know, I choose to remember the Hulk Hogan that I grew up with. I try to separate the character Hulk Hogan from Terry Bollea, whether he can or not at this point. I choose to, right? I mean, Hulk Hogan was legitimately one of my heroes growing up. I had the Hulk Hogan talking toothbrush. You know, I was pushing that button and listening to him tell me to train, say my prayers, and eat my vitamins, and believe in myself 12 times a morning as I was brushing my teeth. So, you know, the fall from grace was definitely a little painful as a fan, but you know, like I said, I try to remember the good times of Hogan, because I mean, growing up, he was a real life hero.
For real, he was the hero. I mean, he is a pop culture icon. His face is about as recognizable as Jesus, and it's because he's the hero of a whole, like, two generations, really. It kind of seems like on accident, Sean, that we're doing like a social experiment about how wrestling fans currently feel about Hulk Hogan. Yeah. This is the third time that in today's recordings that it has come up on accident. Yes.
we were just talking to a Wise Guy earlier, and his first memory was also included Hulk Hogan. And we had a similar conversation with him. Just it's interesting.
Dan, yeah. What was your first live show you went to? Was Hogan a part of that?
Yeah, you know, I don't have a ton of memories of that. I went to something at the Cow Palace, right? I honestly don't really remember the details of it. I might have been probably like 7, 8, 9, something like that, and went with my uncle to a show at the Cow Palace. It was, and I'm horrible with timelines, right? But it was around the time of the Macho King. Because that's what I remember was that. I don't remember any specific matches. I got a horrible memory. But yeah, Cow Palace. I mean, yeah, it was, and I had a blast, you know. But I couldn't even tell you if Hogan was on that card or not. Like I said, my one memory that I remember is Macho King.
I'm really good with timelines, because I can't do my own taxes. I can't long divide. But what I can do is tell you that if Macho King was there, then that means that Hogan was filming No Holds Barred. So he probably wouldn't have been there, but Zeus might have been.
I feel like, and I may be making this up, but I feel like it was Macho and Duggan was the main event.
Oh.
All right. And again, I could be completely making that up, but that's something about that seems familiar.
So do you have like a soft spot for the Cow Palace because of that?
Oh,
I mean, anyone who lives in this area does, but is that a contributor to your kind of affinity for the Cow Palace?
I've seen so many shows of wrestling and other things at the Cow Palace. I mean, I love that place, right? I get goosebumps every time I see, those giant red letters on the side when I'm approaching. I mean, I went to a bunch of raves there in my early 20s. I saw some basketball games there back in the day. Definitely seen a bunch of wrestling there. I did, which is one of my biggest wrestling regrets, somehow did not go to see Eddie and Brock. I don't know how I didn't get tickets for that.
I forgot that happened there.
Yeah, really. Like I watched it. I was in. The funny part is, I was in San Francisco at my buddy's dad's house watching it. But for some reason, we just didn't get tickets at the time, and that's obviously hindsight's 2020. But wish I could have been there for that. But no, I mean, I've seen so much stuff there. Went to both of the APW shows there. Had a blast at those. Went to the New Japan show there a couple of years ago. Like I said, went to a bunch of raves there. Seen some concerts there. Even saw the Warriors play there back in the day. I mean, it's definitely a special place to me.
It's such a.
So
it's... Oh, go.
Go ahead. We were at the Cow Palace for the first APW show there and for the New Japan show there. The APW show was phenomenal. Like Cody Rhodes and Joey Ryan in the cage was killer. And then we went to the New Japan show, and it was a much bigger crowd. New Japan was huge at the time. The Bullet Club was huge at the time, and we tried to get out right as the main event was ending. And we get in the car, right? Where we get in the car, we're super happy to be out on time. Show was great. Get in the car, start looking on the internet from the back seat, and realize that the Bullet Club just broke up in front of us.
So my buddy and I and his wife, we were walking out. We didn't leave right away, but we were leaving, and all of a sudden we hear the crowd go crazy. So we run back in. We got to see that like right from the doors, essentially, the doors as you walk into the actual arena, not the lobby or entranceway there. So we got to see most of that go down, thankfully. But yeah, I mean, it was a great show. Definitely, the APW did about as well on attendance as you could for a local indie. I mean, I think they had close to 4,000 in there, maybe 3,500, something like that, which is insane for legitimately a local indie. New Japan, pulled in a good crowd as well. Yeah, it's a special place in my heart.
I really hope that I don't know what their plan is with that place. I really hope they don't tear it down. And I don't know if you guys have heard if there's any update. I should know, but I'm dumb and I don't. I was lucky enough to do a show and be part of a show at the Cow Palace. I don't know if you went to any of the Fog City wrestling shows. We did one for, I think it was 105. Is 105 Live or something like the Live 105 radio station? They do like a big Halloween thing, and they did like I want to say it was like called Spook Fest or something, and did a wrestling show. It wasn't in the main. It was like underneath, in like it's like a parking or basement, kind of thing. But it's just cool to be part of wrestling history in that building.
That's right underneath the Cow Palace.
Yeah, there's like I guess you call it parking. I don't know if it's like where trucks come in and park and equipment trailers and stuff like that. But they had their big music festival inside, and then the wrestling show was before that, presented by the radio station. So it was a pretty cool experience.
Yeah, I mean, there's just so much history there. Any of us that grew up in this area, that's I jokingly refer to it as the MSG of the West. It's obviously doesn't have that same history, but for us it does. said, I mean, you walk in there and it's the pictures they have on the wall of the people that have performed there, including a picture of Hogan on there. I mean, it's definitely a special place. I haven't heard about them tearing it down. I know at one point they had talked about trying to declare it as like a historical site of significance or something. I don't know whatever happened with that though, if that actually took place or not.
Well, I feel like that was the rumor when APW ran the first show there, and that was like what 3 years ago. So maybe that was successful because it's still there. So I don't know how long it takes to decide to tear a building down, but as long as it's there, I'm happy about it. Dan, when did you start kind of digging independent wrestling? Because it's kind of a normal path for Sean and I to take to go from WWE and WCW lovers to wrestling school, and then taking that path to loving independent wrestling because we were independent wrestlers. But how did you get into it?
Yeah, so I was familiar with APW and the boot camp in my late teens. So I'm 38 years old. So I graduated high school in '99. Went to college immediately, and I was familiar with APW at that point. Never made it to a show. Right, this is before social media for the most part. Like, we had the internet, but there was no Instagram or Facebook or Twitter or anything like that to publicize shows or kind of get the word out there. So you kind of really had to be in the know. And I live up here in the North Bay, so getting out to Hayward as a teen wasn't happening as frequently as I would have liked. I never actually made it to the garage, but I knew who Roland was. Actually inquired at one point about going to train there, but never had the money. As anyone who has heard rumors, Roland definitely wanted all that money up front. Was very big on getting the payday from his students. That was not going to happen.
He would take it in installments. It just cost like what, $2 or $3 grand more.
Yeah. It was money I didn't have access to, and that I was unwilling to go to my parents for. I'll say that they were not going to loan me some money to go to wrestling school. So again, I knew about APW at that point. The first independent show I actually went to was God, I don't know what year it was, but it was at the Phoenix. It was put on by SPW, but it was called Punk Slam. They did a few shows at the Phoenix here in Petaluma under the Punk Slam banner way back when, and got to a few of those. Got to see Chupacabra, Virgil Flynn, Brian Cage was apparently there at one point, although I don't have any recollection of him. I do remember Chupacabra pulled off the first Spanish Fly I'd ever seen in person, and I was like, to me that was a video game move. So Chupacabra made a huge impression on me from that point. But those shows kind of died down. I think they had like 5 or 6 of them, and so from there I didn't get to a show again. But when I really started to get into it was when WrestleMania came out here in 2015, WrestleMania 31. I went down and went to as many of those shows as we went to. We went to both nights of King of Indies. Got to see 2 or 3 Evolve shows. Went to NXT, obviously, as well. Hall of Fame ceremony. And then we did Monday Night Raw and WrestleMania, of course. But my buddy and I actually left the Hall of Fame ceremony early to get back to King of Indies because we had so much fun at the first night of King of Indies. And those 2 shows really is what kind of got me hooked on the Bay Area scene. I mean, I was Adam Thornstowe and William Mack were the finals of the King of Indies and just fucking tore the house down, right? I mean, to this day is in my top 5 best matches I've ever seen live. They just fucking killed it. Crowd was hyped. It got me hooked. And so my buddy lives in Daly City. He had gone to some APW shows. He grew up in Daly City. He went to a bunch of the shows as a kid when they started running in Pacifica, that kind of stuff. And he was going when Marcus kind of relaunched at the Bayshore. He he got back into it, and so we started going to shows again. And I try to get to as many as I can. Can't make it out to every show, again, because I'm up here in Petaluma. It's a good little drive to get to Daly City, especially on a Friday night. I work early morning, so it makes for a long day. Plus, I got a family at this point, but I do make it to as many of those shows as I can. I mean, I really, really enjoyed them. But yeah, 2015, so about 5 years now, been hooked on the scene.
That weekend, that WrestleMania weekend, when they were in San Jose, quote San Jose, was the peak that wrestling will probably ever see in this area. That weekend was the most stacked. I mean, and it's like this everywhere WrestleMania goes, but for us out here on the West Coast, that was amazing. We went to, what did we do, night one, Sean, of King of Indies?
Yeah, that was the first wrestling show we took my now wife to.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
We drug her out there.
She was pretty blown away by that one. Yeah, and talking about APW and Marcus Mack, he has done a phenomenal job with APW. It is in good hands. So it's funny that you talk about APW and not being able to get out there, because that's where Sean and I went. And I'm not going to speak for you, Sean, because you were a year or two after me, but when I was there, the promotion side of it was not awesome. The school side of it was great. It was as good as you could ask for, but the promotion side of it wasn't great. Roland was in poor health. He wasn't the one necessarily running it. And the promotion wasn't doing very well, except for the King of Indies shows. So it's really cool for me to see it in Marcus's hands and see how well they're doing lately.
Yeah, when I was...
They're killing it.
When I was out there, it was past the days of all the like high school shows, the PAL shows. So I missed all that, but it was when Gym Wars was before they got their TV. I don't know if you remember that. They got their TV deal. I think it was on KTVU. And who was it? I think Gabe and Jason were running it, and Roland obviously was still, the Vince McMahon of APW, and everything kind of came down to him. Like you didn't debut unless you got Roland's blessing to you didn't leave beginners camp unless Roland said you were good to go. But yeah, it was past all that, but I think it was like right at a resurgence, and it was starting to move up. And I know I had talked to Roland a few times. He was actually looking at expanding and opening an APW in Phoenix. He wanted to go out there, and I had talked to him about it quite a bit, because we're from the North Bay too, and like you said, Dan, that drive is a nightmare. So when I would drive down there, I would spend 6 hours down there, 7 hours down there. And we talked a lot about, going out there and possibly opening a school and stuff in Phoenix. And then, once the internet stuff started blowing up and the TV deal, and I know John LaRocca got more involved in helping with bookings and all that kind of stuff. And I think Marcus Mack started really digging his teeth in there. And I think we both really wondered, unfortunately, when we lost Roland, like what was going to happen with APW from there. And Marcus Mack has taken it to a level that I don't think anybody thought it would be at.
Yeah, absolutely. Dan, you're up in Petaluma. I work in Petaluma, so I spent a bunch of time there, and I've gone to a couple of Phoenix Pro Wrestling shows at the Phoenix that you were talking about earlier, and I know you have too, because I've seen it all over NorCal Wrasslin. I'm guessing you like it as much as I do.
Yeah, I mean, so one, I think they've raised the price finally, but for the longest time it was $10, right? So $10 to get into a wrestling show in my backyard. I don't care who's on the card, I'm there.
Yeah,
But
exactly.
they've done a great job. They've done a great job of bringing in some decent local names too. I mean, Jeff Cobb wrestled there a bunch. Kratos has been on the card a good amount. Fatu has been there a few times. They even brought in Tyler Bateman once. I'm not sure how they're doing it. They get good little crowds though. I mean, we're getting a couple hundred people in there. It's a great time. It's fun. It's a really cool venue for one. Anyone that hasn't been into the Phoenix for something is missing out. It's 100+ years old. Well, I guess not in this incarnation, but since it actually has burnt down a couple times. And historic venue is really cool. Great crowds for the most part. Again, $10 for some wrestling in my backyard. I will always be there. I think I've only missed 3 or 4 of the shows that they've done there. You will almost always catch me at those, definitely.
And they run shows frequently too. It seems to be every 2 to 3 months, something like that. They seem to be doing like at least 4 shows a year, which is really cool.
Yeah, they started off slow, all right, trying to build the fan base. But before all this had happened, they were pretty committed to running every other month, which is awesome. They've got, I know the SPW guys are pretty involved in that, Samurai and Scoot, and they're putting on a good show. Everyone that I talk to and that I bring there has a good time. Wrestling's fun. Live wrestling it's a blast. You get to act like an idiot, yell at people. Independent wrestling, honestly, like I kind of fell out of love with wrestling. The product on television lost my interest at some point. Whether that was because there was just so much of it and it felt like a chore to keep up with it, I don't know. But when I went to the smaller shows and just that interaction with the wrestlers, when you yell something out at them, you catch their attention, they're interacting back with you. Just it's an absolute blast. And the Phoenix is such a small venue that you can do that. I mean, I love yelling at Samurai and Scoot and Lucian. Lucian Delight is one of my favorites. This guy's not even a wrestler; he's a manager. But he interacts so well with everyone in there. He's so on point with comebacks when anyone says anything. His facials are great. That guy is a star. I love. I mean, I've talked to him. He's a really humble guy as well. But I've told him, I'm like, man, you are legitimately a draw to me. I know when he walks out of the curtain, I'm going to be entertained, and that's what wrestling is about. It's an escape. I miss the fuck out of it right now.
Yeah, it's rough times at the moment. I kind of feel the same way about Samurai. Samurai is one of the most entertaining small venue indie wrestling, like connect with the crowd guys I think that I can remember seeing.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
he stood out to me. He was one of the other guys that stood out to me at the Punk Slam shows way back when. Me and my buddy were like up against the railing talking shit, and he doesn't miss a beat and comes right back at us. And it just killed us. I mean, it was back then we referred to him because we thought he looked like Paul Heyman. So we would forget what we said. I mean, we were calling him something dangerously. And he came back with it without missing a beat. And it's just, I mean, he's great. He's a great entertainer, absolutely.
What are some of the other indie companies in the area that maybe I do a medium job of keeping up, but you actually do an annual award for indie promotions, wrestlers, tag teams, managers, and whatnot. So what are some of the standouts that maybe we haven't mentioned that the listeners need to know about?
Yeah, so I mean, there's Hood Slam, of course. Hood Slam it's its own animal, right? It's definitely not your traditional wrestling show. It is heavy on the entertainment side, but you cannot go to Hood Slam and have a bad time. It's a long show, right? There's no seats. You're standing the whole time. They definitely encourage you to be drinking, to smoke, kind of anything goes in the arena there. There's not even guardrails, right? You're leaning up on the apron as you're watching the show. It's a blast. So I don't make it to too many of those anymore again because Fridays shows run sometimes till midnight or even later. So it's a little tough for me as I'm getting up there in age. Just my body can't quite handle it the same anymore. But they're still going strong. They're running every Friday at this point. Some incarnation of Wrasslin. They've got kind of the sub promotion, so to speak. They got Glam, which is a focused on women. They got a couple others, Sexy Good Time Wrestling Show. Again, Wrasslin is definitely not traditional, but we'll always entertain. You got East Bay Pro. I have not made it out there. They do a good job from what I've seen online as well. They got a school as well. So they're training some people and kind of the new WIST promotion, so to speak, and that's really getting a buzz in the area is West Coast Pro, running out of South San Francisco. And they've brought in some good names. The champ is Hammerstone, obviously MLW national champion. He is the West Coast Pro champion. He's been at most of their shows.
That guy's a monster.
They bring in one of my favorites right now. Not only does he look the part,
yeah,
he's got that Hogan 91 tan, as he likes to refer to it as. But dude can go. I mean, he can actually really, really wrestle. He is not just a body guy at all. He is killing it in MLW right now. Both him and Fatu as well. That's real. Jacob Fatu is doing it big as the MLW champ.
Did Jacob Fatu win your NorCal Wrasslin Wrestler of the Year?
He was the Wrestler of the Year, and that's well deserved. Now so this is actually the first year I did those awards. I did that. Really was just trying to create some content, right? I was like, well, let's do some awards. Everyone likes awards, and that actually helped grow the page tremendously because I had no idea that the wrestlers would take it serious, but I mean, they were pushing it out, trying to get people to vote. I mean, it really, I gained like something like 500, 600 followers just from doing those awards.
That's crazy to me that's the first time, because I think that the way that I found you was somebody, maybe not Jacob Fatu, but somebody like him pushing for themselves to win an award on your page. So I assumed that it had happened several times before. That's crazy.
No, I did not expect those awards I didn't expect the guys to care, right? Like I said, I was just trying to create some content, figured everyone does year-end awards, let's do it, right?
Yeah.
And I didn't make me vote. I left it up to the fans. I did it all as, Instagram polls.
Sure.
I told the people, nominate people in these categories, and then from those nominations, the one thing I did was kind of create the seeds based on what I thought. And then just ran it kind of NCAA tournament bracket style, right? 1 seed versus 8 seed and so on. And yeah, it blew up. I mean, I was getting like 400 and 500 votes on each poll, which I had no expectation of at all. And everyone was taking it serious. I was sitting there, I was like, shit, do I actually need to get some like physical awards for this here? Or
do I need to have some medals made?
Yeah, and then I was like, well, shit, maybe I can just do like some certificates or something. And that might be something I look into for next year, in all honesty, just because it did take off so well. Although who knows if we're even going to do it for 2020, because there hasn't been much wrestling, unfortunately. But
with 2 matches in 2020.
Oh, dude, 2020 has been rough on me. I haven't been to a single show this year. I had surgery early January 12th or 13th. So couldn't make a couple shows that were scheduled because of that, and was supposed to go to a show March 20th. Was a West Coast Pro show. And then the following week was a PPW show, and both of those got canceled because of this goddamn coronavirus. So I have not been to a single wrestling show this year, and it bums me out. Being in California, I know we're going to be the last state to reopen things, most likely. But I really, really hope we can get something at some point. I know the fans are itching for it. I know the wrestlers are itching to get back out there in the ring as well. And let's be honest, we all need some sort of distraction, some break from this shelter in place, some break from all this negative news that's out there. So I'm hoping we get something this year for sure.
We need to do an outside show, a Corona Slam.
Right? Socially distant. We all got to stand 6 feet apart. Let's make it happen.
Fairgrounds is right here. We can just
Corona Slam. That's what me and you were gonna do in my backyard. So you had kind of talked about how some of the local wrestlers follow you and stuff, and to be honest with you, your page, NorCal Wrasslin, is how I have found out that some people signed with AEW or WWE or NXT or what have you. So what are some of the big names from NorCal who are out there doing big things? I guess right now they're doing it in an empty arena, but they're still doing it with these companies. Like, for instance, Timothy Thatcher on NXT has been killing, and love getting to see like Shotzi Blackheart out there. So what have you been thinking about some of these big signings that have been going on?
It's awesome. I love it, man. I love seeing people that I watched early in their career make it as stars. I mean, Shotzi I saw back at Hood Slam when she was known as Missy High as shit. Not Missy Hyatt, but Missy High as shit. She had red hair back then, and she was just a valet. She was a valet for the Stoners. And then I saw her start to have matches, and all of a sudden she's known as Shotzi Blackheart, and she starts having more matches. And I mean, she has worked her ass off to get to the point where she is. So that one is really satisfying. Another big shout out.
And now she has a tank.
Oh, the tank is amazing. Shotzi to me is legitimately a star. You know what I mean? She's got the look down. She's got presence. And she has improved tremendously in the ring due to all of her hard work. So that one's huge. Biggest one for me, Carl Frederick. I saw Carl, one of his first APW shows. The guy ran out. I'd never heard of the guy before, right? And I'm like, oh, all right, this guy, he looks like a wrestler. That's to me, independent wrestling. Not everyone looks like they could be on TV. Let's be real. That's something that does separate the independent scene from the televised product. That doesn't mean they're not entertaining, right? I don't want to judge them for that. But you have to have a certain look for the most part to catch the eye of an AEW or WWE or New Japan. So Carl comes out and I go, all right, got my attention. He looks good. And saw him just kind of work his way through APW. Started following him on social media, find out the dude, he's an awesome dude, works his ass off. This guy was working at T-Mobile, working out in the morning, working out, going to T-Mobile, working out in the afternoon again, a couple times a day, grinding, driving all over the place from Reno, Nevada, just so he could wrestle. Works his way up the card for APW, right? Becomes the internet champ at that Cow Palace show, beats Will Cuevas, gets the internet title, kills it, gets to have good matches against a bunch of guys. Saw him out in Pacifica against the Australian guy in New Japan. I'm drawing a blank. Switchblade. What the hell?
Yeah.
Jay White.
Jay White. Yeah. So he got a match with Jay White. It was, who else was in that match? Of course, I'm having a brain fart now. They had a 4-way, but they tore the house down. He got to wrestle Tommy Dreamer, I think, at one point in Stockton. Got to wrestle a bunch of other big names, right? That was at one point that was kind of APW's thing. The internet title is the title that they let the outside stars come in and challenge for. They kind of let those guys put over their new young thing. And so Carl got a bunch of matches, and every time the guy stepped out in the ring, he improved, right? I mean, he just kept getting better and better. And then, all of a sudden you hear he's moving to LA and joining the New Japan LA dojo. I mean, that was like super satisfying for me, which is really weird to say because I had no part in it. But, it's like it was someone that I saw and I was like, this dude could be a star. And just the satisfaction of being right about that felt good. And also just because, again, the guy's super humble and just an awesome dude. Had the pleasure of talking to him on a number of occasions. He's a really, really good dude and truly loves wrestling and works his ass off to get better at it.
That's the thing about
like
indie shows, right? Is that at an indie show you can really connect with somebody, and then when they go on to do big things, you feel like you picked the right horse. Like you connected with the right one.
No, absolutely. I mean, same thing with Thatcher. I mean, Thatcher, I saw, back when he was doing his honor society thing.
Mm-hmm.
And Fatu. I mean, the first time you see Fatu step out, you're like, oh damn, like that dude's a beast.
It's not just his family name. As soon as you watch him, you go, oh, I see what's going on here. Like you can see the future. You can see the writing on the wall with those guys. You've
got a near 300-pound man doing a version of the best moonsault ever, a springboard moonsault. Like, what the? How does that even happen?
Yeah.
Well, if that's what you're wondering how that happened, then you missed the days of Larry Blackwell doing a moonsault.
Oh wow!
I don't know if you ever saw Larry wrestle, but
I know Larry as Pong, or no, excuse me, as Fong from Hood Slam, fat, obese, nerdy gamer. So I'm familiar with him in that role. Yeah, I cannot picture him doing a moonsault. That's for damn sure.
I took a splash from him at a Fog City show in Pacifica, and that was awful.
I can imagine.
Well, if it makes you feel any better, I TP'd his house.
Seriously?
He used to call me and my group of friends when we were in training Alky Central, because rightfully so, we cared more about drinking than we did about training. And so we were kind of like friendly with him, and to show our affection, we went and stole a bunch of toilet paper from all the gas station Denny's around his house, and then we TP'd his house, and then sat in a booking meeting the next Saturday and listened to him try to figure out who had done it.
Awesome.
So there's that.
Who do you see? Like John was saying, you make it out to a ton of the shows. We really need to start making it out to more of the indie shows.
Yeah, for sure. We need to make an effort on that.
Yeah. Who do you see, Dan, as some of the big up and comers? Some of the guys that haven't necessarily got the notoriety that you see, in your opinion, have that potential to make something?
There's a handful. Number one to me is a guy that's incredibly underrated. He's not really, I don't even know if you can call him an up and comer because he's been around for a bit, and he's, but Will Hobbs. Will Hobbs is
sure
really, really, really good. I feel so bad for that guy with Mania being canceled. He was going out there to be on a GCW show for the culture, which was focused on black wrestlers. But I just feel like that dude was going to get a big spotlight on him and really, really open some eyes. I mean, I am very impressed with some of the things he does in the ring. He to me could easily break out here if he just got the right eyes on him. Levi Shapiro has really taken a huge step up as a singles wrestler since Classic Connection broke up. One, got himself in incredible shape.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously worked his butt off to do that. and he's always been a great character guy. So he's absolutely killing it right now. D-Rogue is someone I really enjoy as well, on the younger side, kind of an up-and-comer, but has some good presence, really good wrestler. Steven Tresario as well. He's current APW Juniors champion. He, to me, has a really bright future. He's got a good look, really good worker. He's got a really kind of intense presence in the ring, which I enjoy. Starboy Charlie, who's a freaking kid, still in high school. Has been wrestling since he was like 14, 13 years old. Sparky there in Gold Rush kind of took him under the wing, I guess. And he's kind of bust out recently, had some really good matches. He's little, I think he's 17 years old, right? But does some really, really crazy athletic, kind of acrobatic stuff out there. Those are kind of the big ones that stand out to me. World Freshest Tag Team as well. DJ Fresh and Alpha Go. Super entertaining guys. Super entertaining, very athletic as well, but just get the entertainment side of wrestling, right? They got a ton of charisma. They come out, the crowd gets excited. They get the crowd into the show, that's what I like about wrestling. I like a guy who knows how to get the crowd involved. It's not, let's be real, wrestling to me isn't just about doing the coolest moves, right? It's about making a connection.
Absolutely.
Going back to Hogan. Hogan did not do the coolest move, but Hogan had a connection with the fans.
Cool move.
Yeah, he made a lot of connections.
he like Bubba the Love Sponge's wife. Anyways, they're giving us the go home signal on that note, Dan. So let's get to these go home questions. All right. So number one, as my iPad closes here, what is your favorite wrestling catchphrase?
We're bringing it full circle. Train, say your prayers, eat your vitamins, and believe in yourself. Hulk Hogan, without a doubt.
You know what? I grew up as big of a Hogan fan as anybody. I had the beat 'em up doll. Everything I owned was red and yellow. I had bought the bandanas out of the WWF Shop magazine. And I enjoy hearing when people still like Hulk Hogan because I want Hulkamania to live forever. It is one of, if not the best characters in the history of wrestling that will probably never be surpassed. So it actually makes me really happy that some people still have that love.
Yeah, I'll never lose it. I can't. Like I said, that's my childhood. I have to hold on to that in some way. Whether he's the same anymore, I don't care. Hulk Hogan was my idol. That's not changing.
Hulkamania might not live forever, but you know what will? Is Beach Patrol.
Yes. Thunder in Paradise, baby.
All right, Dan, what is your least favorite catchphrase?
This one kind of hurts me to say because I'm a fan of the wrestler. But Rick Steiner during his solo run, when Scotty turned on him, had the old, if you don't like me, bite me. Or if you want some, come get some. If you don't like me, bite me. I'm like, it just never worked for me at all. It was just so corny. That's what I'm going to go with.
You got John's trunks in a twist over here.
When you started out, I thought when you said Rick Steiner, I thought you were gonna say his dog-faced gremlin barking, and I was gonna go home right now. But,
no, I love the barking. Love the barking.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, the bite me thing never really worked out. When Scotty and Rick both went like edgy, it worked for Scott. It did not work for Rick.
No. Definitely not.
What is it about wrestling that makes you pop?
Just, when I get involved in a story, right? That emotion, when you can get me emotionally invested in something. I think the last time I really, really popped hard was when Lesnar beat Undertaker at Mania. And one, I'm a huge Lesnar fan, but I mean, that story of beating the streak just got me. It was brilliant to me to have this guy that everyone hates for some strange reason, because Brock Lesnar is, to me, top 5 of all time, and some people hate on him. But to have that man beat the streak, which nobody thought was ever going to be beaten, was perfect. So stuff like that, like bringing out that raw emotional side of entertaining.
There's a term that gets thrown around a lot these days: long-term storytelling. And people usually use it as a knock on WWE because they forget about something that they did last week. But if you take something that is 20 years old and then pay it off, that's how you get a moment like that. Is when you take the time to build a huge story like that. Obviously, that's unprecedented, but in a smaller example, everything Cody Rhodes has done in AEW. Just take a month or 2 months to tell a story, and we'll care. You don't even have to be that good of a wrestler. We'll care if you make us care.
Absolutely. That's wrestling to me, is emotion.
Absolutely. What are the things in wrestling that turn you off?
It's kind of the new wave of wrestling where things seem to be overly choreographed. I'm not a fan of that kind of stuff. I don't like seeing your opponent help you with a move. I am most definitely an old school type of fan. I like seeing a fight, not a dance, so to speak. You can do cool moves and flips and that kind of stuff without taking the believability away from it. And I think a lot of younger wrestlers or the kind of the guys out right now forget that a little bit. They're in a rush to do as much cool stuff as possible and don't think about whether it looks realistic. And people hate on that. Oh, the Irish whip's not realistic. It's like, all right, that's fine and all. That's long established. But I don't like when it's very clear that the opponent is helping the wrestler. It just takes me away from it.
Yeah, I got you. What entrance music do you love?
Real American is up there, 100%. I can't go without mentioning that. I still get hyped when that plays.
I'm not gonna lie. We did a review earlier today that hasn't come out yet in real time. Maybe it has by the time this comes out. But it involved Hulk Hogan, and when his music came on, I popped. You can't not.
No, I play that. I play that every 4th of July. Every year. No joke. That is one that I also always loved was I think it was Arn Anderson's music, but the Horsemen used it for a little bit as a group as well. It just started with the guitar.
Yes.
Was just great. Great music. I always loved that.
That's an awesome answer. Big Arn Anderson fans and big fans of that Four Horsemen Arn music for sure. That's that's a underutilized entrance. What's some entrance music that you dislike?
Billy Gunn, the ass man. I like to lick them. I like to stick them. Whatever the hell the words were there. I hated that shit. And then this is probably going to be unpopular, but Shawn Michaels, the sexy boy. Yeah, you know what? When he was still using that, when he was balding, here's the thing. I liked it. I liked it when Sherry was singing it. I liked that version way back when. Once him and Sherry broke up, whatever, and he was doing it himself, I don't know. That music never really did it for me. But especially when he was, pushing 50, still talking about he's a sexy boy.
See, every time we ask this question, I hold my breath a little bit because I'm waiting for some jackass to say that they hate Buff Bagwell's music, and I'm just gonna lose it.
I can't even remember. It started with him saying I'm buff and I'm the stuff, but I
and the
can't remember
girls
the
just
music.
can't get enough. It's Buff Daddy.
I'm gonna have to look that up now.
Oh man! All right, what is wrestling attire that you love?
So I've always been a fan of the old school singlet. I don't know why, just always liked that look. Steiner's always had the coolest singlets. I loved that they always had just different ones, right? But they always had a singlet on. They didn't have like their go-to one with their names printed on or anything like that. They just had cool neon singlets, and I loved them. I love the Steiners. That's my favorite tag team of all time. But they looked like wrestlers. Steiner brothers for sure.
So what's your take on this? When we did the watch along, WrestleMania 9 watch along, the Steiner brothers have different patterned singlets, but they're both like crazy 80s neon colors. Does their attire match or not?
Absolutely. They're singlets, they're neon, they're perfect. Yeah.
Yeah, they're not the same colors, but they're both hideous. So
no, those are brilliant.
I love it. I can't get enough. Speaking of singlets, I'm a big fan of the singlet also, and you can probably speak to this. So we're watching. Me and my girlfriend are watching AEW the other night, and Wardlow comes out, and Wardlow is a master of the singlet, not just wearing it, but like running the thumbs under the straps, flexing his traps, the whole business. He's working a enhancement talent match. He hits the guy with the corner GTS. The guy goes down and he pulls his straps down, and I go, oh. Shit! And my girlfriend
that's
goes,
when you know
what?
It's on.
And I go, I pause it, and I had to explain to her wrestling science. And I was like, well, when someone's wearing a singlet and they take the straps off, that means that they mean business. She goes, well, why don't they just start out with them off? And I go, well, then they're not even wearing a singlet. And how would you know when they mean business? It was a whole thing.
I don't remember who it was. It might have been Angle, but at one point, he takes the straps down and he like doesn't hit his move, right? And so he puts the straps back on to like go on more, and then takes them back down again to actually hit the finish. And I like lost it at that. To me, that was just brilliant. It might not even have been Angle. Like I said, my memory is horrible.
No, it was. It was
okay.
Angle. Yeah, I remember that, and that's in my top 300 singlet moments.
Yeah, Angle's another one that's just an incredible performer. Why wouldn't Angle wear the singlet, right? He's a fucking Olympic gold medalist with a broken freaking neck. You got to wear the singlet. So.
No one can work the singlet like Angle did.
No,
that's 100% true. Wardlow might be able to work his way up into second place, though. What's some wrestling attire that you don't like?
So generally, I am not a fan of not athletic gear as your wrestling attire. I'm a huge John Cena fan. Whether that's because I was a Hulk Hogan fan and John Cena is kind of the new age Hulk Hogan or not. Love John Cena. Probably my number 2 favorite wrestler of all time. But I hated that this dude came out and wrestled in jean shorts. Like, that just never, how is that comfortable to be wrestling in jean shorts with a freaking belt on? Like, it just didn't make sense to me. I don't understand why he couldn't just wear like some basketball style shorts. It would still look the same. I hate it when guys, crime time, they're out there wrestling in jeans and freaking Timberlands. Like that's not, why would you give yourself a disadvantage in an athletic event by wearing non-athletic gear? It bugs the shit out of me. So Cena's what I'll say though. I mean, for a top star to be wearing jorts, like, come on, man.
First of all, nobody should wear jorts. But
except for Stone Cold.
Unless you're Steve Austin, he can do anything he damn well pleases. We've had this conversation a bunch of times, and I'm in agreement with you. I don't need to see an athlete dressed as a non-athlete. I get that it's entertainment, so I'll allow one per promotion, right? You need a Sandman or somebody, a Dean Ambrose, who's just sort of marching to the beat of their own drum, but that's it. You get one per promotion. what is do you have an impersonation in wrestling that you do?
So I'm not a good. I don't do great impersonations. The only one that I can even come close to is the Macho Man. Yeah, the cream of the crop. I think anyone can do a Macho Man. Let's be real. But that's about the only one that I can come close to.
That was amazing.
I'm not gonna lie. I thought we were gonna get a Hogan.
Yeah.
I can't do Hogan right. I mean, Hogan's just saying a lot of Jack and brother and, rambling on about the highways and byways. And
we had,
I don't know.
Who was it? We had
Baby Slim.
Baby Slim, and his impersonation was Hogan, but it was quiet, docile Hogan.
Okay.
It was Terry. It was like normal speaking voice. I was cracking up.
It was so good.
All right. Lastly, but not leastly, which is English words. What is your favorite good bad moment in wrestling?
This is a difficult one for me to think of because let's be real, wrestling is full of moments that are so bad they're good. That's part of why we love professional wrestling. But I think my favorite one is circa the Attitude Era. Whether that's because of, the fact that I was a teenager at the time and I just found it absolutely fucking hilarious. But it was Val Venus when he had the feud with, what the hell was his name?
Kai and Tai.
Yeah, Kai and Tai and the manager. What was his name?
Mr. This was our first episode. We covered this on our
Choppy
episode.
your pee-pee.
Yes, choppy your pee-pee. Oh my God, that's just amazes me. And then the fact that like the next week they bring him back and they do it, and then they just end the feud, and he comes back out. He's like, "Oh yeah, they missed." Like, wait, what?
No. You're misremembering, much like we did, a massive detail. Do you remember who saved him?
It was random. It wasn't. No.
It was.
Who was it?
50% random and 50% dead on. John Bobbitt saved him.
Yes.
John Bobbitt turned the light off.
That's right. Holy shit.
John
so
Bobbitt
that is the Attitude Era for you.
The next week they bring out John Bobbitt while Val Venus has an ice pack on his dick. And King is interviewing them, and King keeps going, "Now I don't mean to cut you short."
Oh God.
So
Lawler in the Attitude Era to a teenage boy was just amazing. It's horrible humor in retrospect, but me being 15, 16, 17 at the time, it always got me. But yeah, that's the whole choppy your pee-pee thing was just. I mean, I remember it was a. Yeah, it still has an effect on me to this day. I mean, just so fucking horrible, but so amazing.
Oh man, that's good times. Well, thank you, man. We appreciate you being on. Hopefully, we can have you back in the future. Maybe we'll get you on to review a good bag segment. Maybe we'll even review the Val Venus thing. But really enjoyed having you on. Really like having a connection in the indie scene, at least in this area. And thanks for the insight. And hopefully, we can have you back on.
No, my pleasure. I enjoy it. I'm always down to talk some wrestling. It's been a part of my life since I was a little kid. Wrestling fans always seem to get along. It's one of the best things about it. I got so many different friends that the only thing that I have in common with them was wrestling. So, I could talk about it for hours. Absolutely. Really, like I said, my pleasure. Would love to come back on anytime you guys want.
Yeah, hopefully after all this crap clears up, we can get you to come on down and hop in the studio with us. Make it a little more better.
We could definitely do a little watch along. That would be very entertaining. A little mystery science theater action, just making fun of the shit that they put out back then.
Yeah, absolutely. That's kind of the idea of the show is just like, ripping apart the good bad stuff. And then there's another idea that I had for you initially to have you be the moderator in a debate between our two dumbasses over. We each pick a terrible pay-per-view and then argue which one is worse, and have you moderate who wins that argument.
I'm down. I got my own opinions on what's the worst pay-per-view of all time, but we can save that for another day.
Absolutely. All right, man. Thank you, Dan. Everybody go follow NorCal Wrasslin. That's how you're going to learn pretty much everything there is to know about what's going on in the scene around these parts. You can follow us on Instagram at the Good Bad Wrestling. You can follow us on YouTube. Super kick that subscribe button. Leave us some comments. Get in our DMs.
Facebook.
And we'll catch you guys next time on Facebook too. We'll catch you guys next time.
Peace.